Hello everyone, my name is Jennifer and welcome to Best Kept Plans. Today's video is going to be a flip through of my 2023 reading journal for the third quarter of the year. If you're interested in seeing that, please stick around. Okay, so first off, I'm not going to be doing a planner flip through for the third quarter of the year because my catch-all planner is a little bit of a mess. I haven't really been actively planning in it. I also missed most of the month of September with being in a bit of a creative slump. So I just don't feel like doing a flip through of that would be very fruitful for you all. So for the third quarter, we're only going to be having a flip through of my reading journal. This reading journal is one that I started in the third quarter of the year. So for the first two quarters of 2023, I was in a different reading journal and it was so stuffed up that I made the decision to switch to this one for the second half of the year. This is from Archer and Olive. It's an A5 notebook. It is from their Amy Tangerine collab. I love the cover of this. It's so interesting and unique. And super happy that when this release came out, I ordered two of these notebooks because they worked as perfect companions to each other to use as my two reading journals for 2023. So if we dive into this, I am going to flip through some of the intro pages just as a little bit of a refresher, and then we'll go through the rest of it. When I decided to switch over to this for the second half of the year, I did put together a new cover page, and this cover page is the inverse of my cover page in the first half of the year. That notebook that I used for the first half of 2023 was craft paper, so I put white sheets in and I did a similar thing, a little bit different, but a similar thing with regards to the title, and I used the same washi tapes. After that cover page, we're going to bop right into my Reading Rainbow. This is a spread I've been doing since I started using a reading journal, and I love it. I basically use this stamp from Studio Calico, and then every time I finish a book, I color in one of the book spines. I do have a key right back here to indicate what month I read that book in. And then if I flip forward beyond that, we do have my TBR. I kind of populated this with some stuff that was in my TBR for the first half of the year and then some other newer stuff, and it just keeps going. I think in the first half of the year my TBR was 8 pages long. For this one I only did 6 pages since it was just the second half of the year. I didn't think I needed as many. I did redo my Instagram challenge spread in this notebook. Every month of 2023, I am reading a book that was recommended to me by someone on Instagram. And so as you can see, I usually put the title of the book, when I finished it, and then who recommended it to me. And then after that, I have my A to Z challenge, which I feel like I've done pretty decent with. I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 letters that I haven't gotten to yet. I'm not actively picking books to be able to fill in this challenge. I'm just kind of seeing what works as it comes. So I don't really think I'm gonna get this filled in 100%. Like, I don't see myself getting Q or X or probably even Z, but we'll see what happens. Next, we have my mystery thriller and poetry challenges that I created for myself. Basically, I want to try to read one mystery thriller and one book of poetry every month for the year, and I have so far done pretty well with that. For 2024, I definitely want to do something similar, but different genres. And then I do have my book of the year spread. So I've been basically filling in my favorite book that I've read each month. And then as the year has progressed, I have moved things over down this bracket. The 2 out of my top 3 are definitely not ones that I would have predicted at the beginning of the year, but everything happens for a reason. And then we're going to get into July. So I decided to follow a similar vibe and trend that I did in the first half of the year with using these script stamps from Heidi Swapp to put in the title, always putting a quote page on the other side, using washi tapes, using fun stuff. But for the second half of the year, I very intentionally wanted to use TCMC washi tapes in every cover page. So I did that here for July. And then we always go to my July by the day spread, which is something new for 2023, but I do really like it. So while I am going to switch up the way that I do it in 2024, I am going to do something similar to this. This is a way for me to see how long it takes to read each book that I read, like what day I start it and what day I end it, which I think is really interesting. Someone here on YouTube had the suggestion for me that I can write in this line with a different color depending on how I read the book, whether it was physical, digital, or audiobook. And I think that is a great idea, and that's something that I intend on doing in 2024. And then we're going to go right into my book spreads. 7 Days in June was the first book I finished in July. I actually started it in June because I wanted to read it in June, but I finished it on July 1st. And I kind of followed the same type of information on each of these book spreads, though the layout can look different. I always include title, author, genre, page count, quotes, and rating. And then I always have a number which indicates what number book of the year it was. So this was the 83rd book I read in 2023. And that does just keep going. If I don't have quotes listed, it's probably because it was an ARC that I received. Generally, I look on Goodreads to get quotes to fill in the quote section. Sometimes, especially with books of poetry, I might mark off a quote or a poem that I liked and use that in this section, but honestly most of the time I'm just looking on Goodreads. And so for a lot of these newer releases, there's nothing on Goodreads yet. I'll definitely at some point have to go back and fill all that stuff in once they do have options for me. I know I've looked back more recently into the ones in the first half of the year and then some of the ones in July, and I didn't feel like they had anything substantial yet. Fourth Wing, oh man, that was my first 5-star read for July, and it was definitely my favorite book I read in July. I love that book, and I cannot wait for the sequel to come out. I'm so excited for that read for sure. This one was definitely a pleasant surprise. The Blonde Identity, it is a romance, but it has like a amnesia aspect. It has like a secret agent aspect, so it was really, really fun. Again, ARCs that I got, so I don't have quotes. Divine Rivals was another. This was really hard when it came to filling out my book bracket for July because I loved Fourth Wing and I loved Divine Rivals. And if I had read them in separate months, I could see them each being my favorite book that I had read in whatever month I read them in. But having read them in the same month, it was a challenge. But Fourth Wing definitely won out on that one. And Lisa Jewell, none of this was true. This was a really, really good one, 4.5 out of 5 stars. Now, because I like to do a 2-page review page, if I end with an empty page on the right-hand side, I'll usually fill it in with some type of quote. That way I can do a 2-page review or recap page. And again, added in some TCMC washi for that as well. And then we flip the page, and now we're in August. So for August, again, I used a bunch of different TCMC washi. I went with more of like an office or stationery theme for the month of August. And then we have my August by the day spread. And I did have my first DNF of the year in August, and I did put that line in red. So I indicated how long I read it for, even though I didn't finish it, and then put DNF next to it. And as you can see, things look a little bit different on the page here, just switching up how my layout is. So putting the cover in the corner and using different number stickers to indicate what book it was that I read for the year. The Boyfriend Candidate, that was my July Instagram challenge book, which I unfortunately couldn't read in July, so I read it in August and I did really, really like it. That was a recommendation from Alex at Arksy Reads and Plans, and I loved it. And this is when I read the Magnolia Park series. The first Magnolia Parks I enjoyed. I, again, knew what I was in for, and I think you kind of need to know what you're in for with regards to these books, because there's a ton of miscommunication, and the relationship, especially in Magnolia Parks, is incredibly toxic. But if you can kind of deal with that or look past that, it's quite an intriguing story. And then I went right into Daisy Hates, really liked that one, and then I went into Magnolia Parks The Long Way Home, which was fantastic to me. I really loved this book way more than I thought I was going to, and it ended up being my favorite book that I read in August. And then I read the second Daisy Hates book as well. This is how I indicated that I had a DNF. I just put a red sheet of paper across and wrote "do not finish" on it. And then I have my August recap page. Again, using my TCMC washi tape. I always try to have my recap page look similar to how my cover page was for the month. So that's what the cover page looks like, and then that's what the recap page looks like. Now, one thing that I didn't anticipate was that the quote that I wanted to put for August on my recap was so long, I didn't have enough room for it, so I had to add this little flip down. It's a quote from Magnolia Parks, and it's incredibly good. And then we have September, the last month that we're going to go through, and I decided to go with some green paper. I went a little bit more simple with regards to the washi tape. My September by the Day spread is here. Again, another DNF in the month of September. And then I went different with my layout. I put the picture right in the middle of the page. I use these larger number stamps to go all the way across, and that continues throughout. September was definitely interesting. I read quite a few books, but a lot of them were very middle of the road, 3 read, 3.5, 3-star, 3.5-star kind of a situation. And so I actually didn't have any 5-star reads in the month of August. It's the first month of the year, or I'm sorry, September. It's the first month of the year that I didn't have any 5-star reads. So my favorite book that I read in the month of September would probably be Things We Left Behind. I think that was my highest rated read for the month. But I didn't love it, I'll be honest. I enjoyed some aspects of it, but I didn't love it, absolutely love it. So yeah, favorite book I read that month, highest rated book I read that month, but it wasn't a 5-star read. And then I have my September recap page, which I haven't even filled a quote in for yet. I do have to get to that. And that is it for the third quarter of 2023 in my reading journal. I love my reading journal so much. It brings me so much joy to put these spreads together. It's just so much fun and such a great creative outlet. And I'm already thinking about my reading journal for 2024 and what things are working for me and what things I want to change. And I'm just so excited to be putting that together pretty soon as well. If you have any questions about how I use my reading journal, what supplies I use, all that kind of stuff, please don't hesitate to put them down below. And as always, everyone, please be safe. Bye-bye.